instead of letting this air dry, I am hitting it with a hair dryer. It comes in very handy with this sort of work. Now I'm going to add a touch of green here at the top, since this is dry. So, of course. And I find that the colors have dulled just a little bit since they dried, so I'm not real happy with the intensity of this area. I'd like to take it up a notch, and so I'm going to add a little bit more of the blue. Oops, I didn't want to get that up there. Brush that out. And I'd really like a little bit more purple in there too, I think. I'm going to go with blue violet if I can find it. Blue violet, where are you? Maybe this will do the trick for me. Smooth that out. And I have lost almost all of my detail there, which is kind of... But I will take advantage of this wet paper to define the front petals here a little more by adding some violet across the top, which actually is more the way it is. I want to separate them from the back petals. And see, I'm getting kind of a nice blending there with that wet paper. It's blending in that area. What can I do to define the bottom ones? Well, not a whole lot. Best I can do is kind of add a line between them. I don't generally like to outline things, but sometimes you almost have to get some definition. Now I'm going to take my purple pen, or my purple Monogold pencil, and re-add those lines back in there. There aren't too many on the side, or more, and they actually extend up into the yellow on this bottom petal. Now I'm going to kick this up a notch by adding a little wee bit of pink in spots, just to kind of make it a little bit more interesting, give it a little bit more pop. And there probably is actually some pink in the original, even though it doesn't show a lot. Going to kind of pull this down just a little bit and blend it on all the petals. Maybe I'll just throw a little bit in there too while I'm at it. Some of that tinted water that's on my brush. Alright, again, I'm going to use the hair dryer on that so I can add some more fine detail. Now that this is dry, I'm going to add some very fine veining. And that's what I want. It'll give me a light, very fine line on dry paper. Reinforce that. I'm going to kind of define this too. What it looks like actually is it comes down like this. Little fuzzy things here. Sort of a dark area, and then it's kind of green down in. I'm going to add a little additional veining. always radiating from the center. So you want to save your very fine details for when the paper is dry, toward the end of the painting of the flower. Okay, that will pretty well do it, although I see something here that I need to correct. Just going to blend that out a little bit. Okay, and for some reason these look crayon-y, so I'm going to wet them and smooth them out a little bit. Okay, my next step will be to add some background. And for this, I'm just going to use various colors of green to get a sort of an abstract, leafy background. I'm going to just color in spots here and there. And you can do a little more defining of actual leaves later on. This can be very random. You don't want to get too hung up on it. Now, I have leaves drawn here, and I don't really want to scribble over these, so I'm going to kind of go around them to preserve them. Okay, I'm not going to worry with this too much right now. I just want you to get the idea of what I'm doing. I'm going to let some open space here, because when I take my acrylic brush with the water on it and begin to blend, I want to have some light spaces as well as the dark color. And whoops, that's supposed to be a purple petal back there. Just fill that in real quick. I could use a little bit bigger brush for this too. I'm just using what I have here at my work table. And this is a partially open blossom that I can do later. Now see, the shape of this is going to be defined by the green around it. Because it's a light object, you need a darker background. A little bit bigger brush would do me well here. Although I don't want to obscure my details. Now, one thing I'm going to do is carefully go around the shape so that the flat edge of the brush is going along the edge of the flower petals to help define them. And see, it's starting to look like a watercolor. Looks almost like a traditional watercolor. Now what I can do is draw some individual leaves while it's wet, or impressions of leaves. They don't have to be accurate. And you don't want to overdo it. You just want enough leaves to make it be leaveable, if you'll pardon the pun. I'm going to fill in my leaves here on my stem. I'm going to go with a lighter color here too, because this is way too dark. Add some touches of light green back here in the background too. I'm going to go over the stem too to smooth it out. Now, in traditional watercolor using paint, you often let white spaces for highlights. I'm not doing a whole lot of that here. That's personal preference, really. I'm going to define these. Actually, I'll take a pencil my dark green Mongol and define these with some veining and edges on one side of the pencil. It's so wet that it's almost coming out lighter instead of darker, but that's okay. This is the non-critical part of the painting, really. What I do see here, though, is that these are both light values, and I want that to be a dark value, so that it contrasts with the petal. So I am going to add the darkest green that I have, which happens to be with the pencil. Run that up along the petal. That'll bring that out nicely. And I'll do that around the leaves too. A lot of this is just ad-libbing. You just see what you need as you go. You get a dark spot back here. In a pot of flowers there are lots of shadows, so you can get away with this. And this is going to help define the shape of the individual leaves too. Add some veining there. Okay, I'm going to hit that with a hair dryer, and I think you've got a pretty good idea of the techniques that I'm using here. One more thing, I'll define this leaf a little bit, and edge of the stem, and I will take a break here. Now, as you can see, I filled in a lot of the background with this dark pencil, and just sort of suggested leaves every here and there, and added some veining. This was done on damp paper. Now, and I've also added some color here to this folded flower, and I decided that it would make a better composition to eliminate this partially open flower, and I can do that because I'm the artist. I'm the almighty here. Now I'm going to define the flower's base here with this dark green, as well as the stem. The paper's slightly damp, and I'm going to go back and do the same thing with this stem. I'm going to wet the pencil a little bit because I don't feel really happy with the way the stem is showing up. I'm kind of almost outlining these leaves. Now this is where it sort of departs from the traditional watercolor look, and you don't have to do this. This is my choice. But I kind of like some lines in with the tone. And you can see that I have also added some upright strokes every here and there that might suggest stems in the background. And I've been careful to define the light colored petals of the pansies, or the violas rather, by adding dark around most of them. You don't want to make a solid dark or it's going to look like an outline, but just patches of dark will do the trick. Now, it usually pays to look at your painting the next day. Even if you think it's finished, take a fresh look at it. You'll probably see something that you could do a little bit differently. What I saw on mine is that since I removed the partially open flower here, I need a center of interest or something to fill this space a little bit better right here rather than just plain green. And actually I can stick with the green but make it stand out by making it a little lighter, and that will balance the light green up here too. So since this paper doesn't take well to being scrubbed, I'm going to use a knife and I'm going to scrape off color on the places where I would like to add a little more light green in.